Hello there, campers. My name is Paul Hughes. I am the Lord of Leisure, a very sluggish, sleepy, and still recovering somewhat Lord of Leisure from various as it were. I managed to get a cold and a sore throat and various other things just all thrown at me the last few days. So I've been, in essence, going every few minutes, and it's fucking annoying. This is another Aftermath video. I've finally gone back to the cinema after a little while. Apologies for recording this in my front room and not the cinema just afterwards, where it would have been raw, fresh, and but couldn't be bothered really. I was absolutely knackered, so I decided to come home, do this quick before going to bed rather quickly. Tonight's Aftermath video is all about Venom. Yes, it's another Marvel comic book film, which obviously no one is tired of yet in any shape or form. Although, I will say this, it's come out today, the 3rd of October. It's out in the US on the 5th of October, and I knew a little bit going into watching this that it's received mixed impressions by an awful lot of people. Now, I suppose what it's going to be down to is the fact that it is purely a Sony Pictures project. You know, I know they've got their own studios, subsidiaries, and all the rest of it, but when Sony made the Spider-Man films and so forth, they were getting, well, shall we say, they weren't doing that well in terms of like praise and money coming back. And obviously Sony entered into a deal with Marvel to bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, obviously they kept hold of a few characters that came along with Spider-Man for the ride, and Venom is one of those characters. Actually came in from Spider-Man 3, the last Sam Raimi based Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. This is how far back you're going. And so what they try to do here is that although Spider-Man is with Sony and Marvel, you know, in terms of the cinematic stuff and the fact that for a little while longer, if not going on, it depends entirely on how nice they're going to play together, that Sony wanted to still develop characters that they had the rights to, in any case, as standalones to hopefully tie into all the rest of it. So that's what this is. Venom, basically, unfortunately, the challenge that they had, Sony, was they had to make this a standalone film, completely non-referencing for a huge amount the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they weren't going to have any characters or anything. This was designed to be by itself. So in essence, the origin of Venom was going to have to be different to what the comics were. And so whether or not they were going to make that work, was Tom Hardy going to be a decent Eddie Brock? You know, this is the thing. They had to create a plot, change various things to make this a plausibly standalone film, which could then bring these characters into some other stuff at a later time. So, did they actually do it? Now, I'm going to keep saying now for quite a few bits of this, because now, there's kind of a few blocks here. The first point in the nows is you can tell the difference immediately between what Marvel does on the big screen versus what Sony does by itself on the big screen. Without Marvel helming this, the difference in production is night and day. It almost like a step back, if you will. The fact that we've come all this way with various characters tied in and started talking to each other and all the rest of it, and then we move away to something else completely standalone again, perhaps not even in keeping with the way that Deadpool was done with Fox. It sort of it kind of reminds me of the comic book films we had in the early 2000s, where they were truly standalone. They weren't expecting to create universes or anything like that. So, in essence, if you've never watched any of the Marvel films or anything like that, you actually don't have to care. You can just watch this and be perfectly fine. You're not going to have a clue. However, when I say the difference is night and day, I also mean that definitely in production values, because there were certain parts of this that definitely looked cheap. And I know that's going to sound disparaging to the CGI people that worked on it and what have you, but there were some parts that were alright looking, and then unfortunately there's inevitably big fight off with CGI characters that is not going to look that clever. I mean, it does the job obviously, but it's sort of pretty much it's fucking obvious when they use green screen on this. Make no mistake. It's damned obvious. Now and the next now segment is the performance of Tom Hardy. He has Eddie Brock, where they created Eddie Brock originally was supposed to be another photographer jealous of Peter Parker back at the Daily Bugle, whereas obviously none of that counts here. And Tom Hardy is a sort of happy-go-lucky chap who is still an investigative reporter. They've moved everything out to San Francisco, which means, that's how they can be isolated, because obviously no one is in New York looking at any of this stuff and thinking, hang on, we should get the Avengers. Haha, that was a clever plan, Sony. But he's got a girl. Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, has got a girlfriend played by Michelle Williams, and something or other. She's a lawyer. Basically, in the opening 10 minutes, we get the huge premise of something from outer space crashing on Earth, possessing people that will then set up later on in the film, and then just quickly after that, Tom Hardy breaks into his girlfriend's laptop because she happens to be a lawyer working on a case against the bad guy, who is Colton Drake. Basically, yet another tech geek startup. Pretty much that same personality. You're not going to... Instant, obvious bad guy is obvious. It's that kind of thing. But because... obviously, this all comes out that Eddie Brock finds out that there's a lawsuit involving people dying during an experiment. He questions Colton Drake. He gets fired. His girlfriend gets fired. They break up. All the rest of it. Basically, everything goes to shit. Blah blah blah. And that's where then things start getting. Perhaps starting to turn a little bit more interesting. It is at a breakneck pace, this, and this is another now segment, actually. The pacing of the film, it's almost like they rushed a huge amount of it to get through in a reasonable runtime, trying to keep it like below 2 hours. Things go boom, 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 boom. You pretty much, they do... It's kind of almost the minimum needed for that particular story plot. Right, move it quickly. There's no... It's very rare that there's a moment to catch your breath in terms of, oh, that happened. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of acceptance by everyone. They just carry on and they just go, oh, yeah, that happened. And, oh, yeah. And, oh, my God, where did it go? And, again, I'm generalizing an awful lot because I don't want to give a huge amount away, although, to be perfectly frank, if anyone's even paying attention, they are going to see an awful lot of what's coming along. Absolutely. Especially when Tom Hardy gets the alien symbiote, which then forms Venom. It's telegraphed a mile away when this actually happens. So it's not going to be a shock or otherwise. Before, when Eddie was more of a loser, they had a few obvious points. Again, maybe perhaps you could argue that there was some parts that were unremarkable. You could see exactly, oh, they've got foreshadowing coming, especially when dealing with Eddie Brock's annoying neighbor who plays rock music and is, a bit of a twat, and dealing with a guy who is asking for protection money and bottles of whiskey from a lady running a convenience store. Those things, they, again, telegraphed a mile away. But I don't, in a strange sort of way, it started getting me on board once Venom got involved, because Venom as a character that they created in here, talking to Eddie Brock in his head, it's like, Eddie, talking like that. Can we bite their heads off? I'm doing Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget now, but it actually became definitely more interesting and more comical in some regards as well, because Venom just wants to bite everyone's heads off. It's actually quite endearing, but in a strange sort of way, then it became too tone set. Overall, the film is clearly looking like they wanted to go darker than anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but then clearly they held back. I suspect that's because they want to make sure that this is still viewable enough by people, by a general audience, that then they can include stuff in a later point that Venom is going to be the audience friendly. It's not going to be hardcore adult type things, which is actually kind of funny because it is a 15 rated film in the United Kingdom. I understand in the US it's PG-13, so I don't know what they were going for here, but clearly there are parts that the film holds itself back on purpose, and you clearly see that. But the funny bits, obviously the humor on it, I could see that they're trying to channel Marvel's humor and style in some parts of it, and some bits work, some bits don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I laughed during this film, and not in a oh god, this is bad laughing. There was a couple of bits that were actually pretty funny, and it was mainly cause of Venom and Tom Hardy. The rest of it was sort of you do get to see a female version of Venom. I won't say how, but you do, and it was a few of these interactions and so forth that actually made it worthwhile watching. The rest of the stuff was fine. They pretty much establish, the weaknesses of the symbiotes early on, which obviously will play into various fights, blah blah blah. Yeah. And there was a very interesting end credit scene. Now, just to be clear, if you stick around to the complete end, you will see two end credit scenes, one of which is the clear setup for the sequel. Make no mistake, complete setup for the sequel. The next one is pretty much an advert for Sony's other thing, Spiderman Into the Multi-Spider-Verse, whatever it's called, the animated thing that's coming out for Christmas. So that's pretty much what you've got to look forward to if you stick around to the end. It was okay. I would say it would be a surprise at the end, but it's generally, if you know the comics, you know exactly what's going to go on. But hey, what can you do? And going back to Tom Hardy's performance, there were times that he was just all over, just completely lost, and he could have been absolutely pissed through it and just going, really? What? Why are we? Who are you? Why am I here? What's this in my hand? He is just along for the ride when Venom comes along the scene. And to be fair, that's actually quite good. I do like how he pulls that off. The American accent with Tom Hardy, yeah, but hey, what can you do? It's enjoyable enough. It didn't take me out too much of the film. Eminem did some of the music for this as well, kind of surprising. Overall, it is a schizophrenic film. It's two tones what it wants. It wants to be comical yet dark and brooding and you get Venom wanting to bite people apart and eat live flesh. Sometimes you get it's a joke. Other times, no, he really wants to. But it's sort of it goes to being one thing and then it goes to being back another, and you go back and forth. So you're not sure how far what way it's really going to go. I mean, the story wise, you pretty much can see where it's going. You see the bad guy as being completely obvious. You see who's going to live, who's going to die, that type of thing. And yeah, you might not care about an awful lot of the characters, actually, all things considered. But I do have a thing about one character. His name is Dr. Dora Skirth. But I keep hearing it as Dr. Skirt. And I was wondering, is this because she's a woman? You called her Dr. Skirt? It's just that I was mishearing sometimes. So whether or not that was just me or otherwise, I don't know. I challenge you all to, if you go and watch Venom, just get me wrong. Are they saying Dr. Skirth or Dr. Skirt? Because it does sound like they're saying Dr. Skirt. And yeah, it just, that made me laugh, but probably not for the right reasons they were going for. So, at the end of all this, you have what is pretty much an okay film from the early 2000s. Seriously. In terms of superhero stuff, the tone and everything else, it's sort of a weird thing that they've gone for here. And it wasn't all bad. I could say it's not a terrible film or otherwise. But the best I can say is that it's okay. I sat on my ass. I watched it. I got a couple of chuckles out of it. I certainly wasn't bored. The pacing was a bit too much. There were some other bits that were obvious. As I've said already in this video, it was okay. It's not necessarily something I'm going to rush out to watch again. Certainly not that Deadpool 2 or even Doctor Strange. I actually, while I was ill, I watched Doctor Strange again. And it was still good, still held up. I'm happy to rewatch some of these things. This, I take it or leave it. Maybe even while doing my ironing, perhaps I'd happily put it on. But would I? If you're a comic book fan and you're wanting it to live up to the original source material, you're going to be disappointed because it definitely deviates because of what they've done with the cinematic thing. But if you're just wanting to watch some silly sci-fi stuff with an anti-hero, that's probably the best way to describe Venom as a whole. It's about the birth of an anti-hero without Spiderman. It's all right. I've seen worse, but I certainly have seen worse, and I can't say that this is an overall terrible film. Absolutely not. But the best I can say is that it's okay. So if you're after just like a couple hours out of the cinema where you're just going to be perhaps there's definitely parts of it that are entertaining. Absolutely. There are some parts that it just flies by quickly, and you go, huh? What? Huh? It's not all bad. It's certainly not all bad. It could have been a lot worse, but I will say this: abso-fucking-lutely, it is crystal clear the night and day difference when Marvel is involved with their franchise. When Sony and Marvel work together, bringing Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and putting all that together, the difference in quality was profound. And then obviously you're taking that away again for Venom. It is absolutely a massive difference. And it is kind of a shame on that. Now, whether or not they're going to do sequels or otherwise, obviously it's going to be dependent on how successful this thing was. But in essence, I kind of hope that, I know with the obvious sequel bait is obvious, especially in the mid sequence, and you kind of pretty much get that's the plot of the second film. But I hope that if they do a sequel, that one, Marvel are on board. And I know that sounds terrible to everyone who's worked on this. You know, I mean, clearly there's some attention, thought gone into it, because obviously they've had to make sure that Venom was standalone without encroaching on anything else. Absolutely. And the way they've done that isn't actually that bad. It's just it's that little something that unfortunately we've got too used to, perhaps now. That taking that away again, it's sort of obvious. But if you're not giving a shit about any of all that, I mean, I'll certainly say this: there are far worse things to go to the cinema to watch. You won't feel like you've wasted your money with Venom, but you might not be blown away. Like I said, it is the perfect definition of okay again. And I would like to see more of Venom flushed out, especially the back and forth between him and Eddie Brock. I mean, I don't know who voiced Venom, but they did a pretty good job, to be fair. And I hope they get the chance to do more. So yeah, Venom by Sony. I would say it's an okay film to watch if you're after a sci-fi alien thing with comedy and potential moments of horror, which then are stepped back from. You know, there's not really jump scares in this or otherwise, despite what you would think. But don't expect the heights of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with this. Absolutely not. It's definitely not that kind of a film, and it really does show. So that's it, campers. I'm going to go to bed and collapse now, drinking more of various things. And until... hang on. No. That's it. Until next time, campers, take it easy, and hopefully my nose will not be attempting to unblock itself while I'm talking as well. Until next time, campers, take care. This was the Aftermath video for Venom, and until I do another one, cheerio! I'm going to push the button to stop the video now.